Hey there, welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing something kind of cool. I recently saw a video from Heather Austin where she was using the Norn's palette from Oden, and I have had this palette for a while. I actually had it listed for sale, but then I fell back in love with it when I used only this palette for a whole week. But there are a couple of shadows inside this palette that I have not liked from the beginning. And in one of Heather's looks, when she did a 3-look 1 palette video when this palette was launched, she used all of the shades that I really didn't like. So I thought it'd be fun to follow her tutorial and see if I can recreate her look and get any kind of a better result than I did the first few times I used those shadows. If you're new here, hello, my name is Rachel and I'm a homeschooling stay-at-home mom. I really enjoy playing with colorful eyeshadow and I upload multiple videos every week. They're all eyeshadow related content, so if you like what you see, please consider liking and subscribing before you go, and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss new videos. So let's talk about these shadows. This was, again, pretty early in my eyeshadow journey, so my skill level was not there. My knowledge about my own colors and undertones and how to use shadows and how to use Oden's eye formula, none of that was there. So I have to give the palette a little bit of slack on that side of things. However, more recently I did a palette bingo using this palette, and I ended up getting a couple of the shades that I didn't like from the beginning, which for the record were this one, and this one. And when I used these shadows much later in that palette bingo, I still didn't really like the way that they performed, particularly this red shimmer. It was just, So when I saw Heather's video and she did a whole look centered around those 3 colors basically, I thought, well, you know what? Let me try it one more time and give these shadows one more chance. I've given the palette a second chance and it has passed the mustard, but I don't know about those particular shades because when I did my week of Norns, I didn't use those shades. In my week of Norns, I think I may have used this one. I don't remember exactly. And Heather's look, she did use a couple other shades too, so I will be using a few others today as well, but she also used both of these. And I'm curious to see if my result will be like her result. So let's prime the eyes. I'm going to use the Glamlight Icing Primer in the shade White Frosting, and then we'll zoom in and get going. So I'm going to be including some clips from Heather's video so that I can walk myself through this tutorial. Let's see what she did first.
So what I'm going to do first is go into Pragmatism right here, and this is actually an Oden's eye brush. I'm going to pick up a good amount of product and then I'm just going to tap the excess off, and I'm going to stamp this on the outer part of my crease, really kind of above my crease, but I'm not going to blend it in too far.
All right, so we're starting with the shade Pragmatism in the outer corner and crease. I'm taking a Morphe, sort of a medium blending brush. I've been on the lookout for a brush like this. I see some other YouTubers use something similar. It's a little bit smaller, but still pretty fluffy. And I kept thinking I would have to go and buy like specifically that brush and find what they were using. But then I found this in my travel set and I thought, ooh, that might work. So I'm trying it out today. Anyway, that doesn't matter. Going into Pragmatism, I'm going to put this in my outer corner and my outer crease. Heather and I have slightly different application techniques. She tends to divide her lid in half, and I prefer to divide mine into thirds. So later when she puts down her shimmer, she does it in halves, and I'm going to keep my shimmer on the outer third. It's just a matter of personal preference and technique. I honestly don't know if I'm going to love this look when I'm done. I didn't love the finished look when I saw it on Heather. But I saw that she seemed to have better luck with the shadows. They just seemed to perform a little bit better for her than I remembered them performing for me. And I thought, well, it could simply be a matter of skill. When I first got this palette, my skill wasn't there, and there's a lot that I had to learn. Maybe I just need to give those shades another chance. I'm going to take a looser blending brush and just buff that out a bit. Let me talk about how the shadows are performing as I go and the experience that I've had with them. This is the matte brown. It's never been a problem for me. The shadows in particular are the shimmer brown, which is called Realism, and the shimmer red, which is called Passion. I have always found both of those, which seem to be the same formula, to be very difficult to pick up on a brush and very difficult to blend. I think I remember them building okay, but they just didn't blend. They just sort of stuck. And I don't know why. But even later on, like I said earlier, even later on when I used this palette for a bingo and I got a couple of those shades, my skill level had improved by then and I still couldn't get them to work. And when I was talking to my friend, because it was like a bingo collaboration with a friend on Instagram, she had the same problem. She's like, no, those shadows just weren't great. They're just weird. They're just hard to blend. And I haven't seen that formula in any of the Oden's releases since this palette. So I'm guessing they just pulled it out or simply improved. I don't know. At the beginning, it was enough for me to want to sell the palette, but then when I tried it again, it's just enough for me to avoid those shades. But here I am, using all of them. Adding in a bit more depth after it's been blended. And now, let's see what Heather does next.
Now I want to go in with the shade Mist right here. All right, this is a Morphe Jaclyn Hill brush, and I'm going to go in just like that, and we're going to put this basically where we didn't put that dark brown. So it's going to come in and just kind of fade to meet it like that.
Okay, so she takes the shade Mist and she puts it in her inner crease. Now again, this is a shadow I've never had any problem with. I actually like this one. It's really pretty, especially when you pair it with the like the blue and green tones in the palette. Very pretty. I don't think I've paired it with brown, but I don't have any issues with this one. This is a good shade. This one's blended really nicely into that brown. It seems like they have similar undertones. So now let's see what she did next.
Okay, I'm not sure how this is gonna look, but we're gonna try it. I'm gonna take this flat brush from ColourPop and go in with the shade Passion, this deep metallic red shade, so pretty. And I am going to spray my brush before I go in with this, just to make sure I don't have red all over my face. So I'm just going to line this up right under that dark brown.
All right, here is where it gets a little hairy. She took a flat brush and she dipped into the shade Passion. It feels almost like a clay. It's very strange. I do not like this formula. And I'm so glad that I haven't seen it in any of Oden's other palettes, because if I had, they would not be my favorite brand. Anyway, here I am digging and swirling and pressing, and I don't know. I cannot get this shade to do anything. It's just meh. I'm going to spray it and see how it goes. I legitimately want to give this as much of a fair shot as possible. I'm having trouble with it. Now, she put this on the outer corner, or the outer half of her lid underneath the brown. Like I said, I'm doing thirds instead of halves. So I'm going to put it under the brown, but more in the outer third. Let's see. It is laying down. It is pigmented. It still feels really dry and kind of clay-like. It doesn't feel smooth or soft. I have to say it's certainly pigmented, so it picked up more than I realized, but it's kind of pulling at my lid in a very unpleasant way. It feels like I'm trying to slide mud or Play-Doh over my skin, and it's not blending nicely into the mattes. And you can see Oden's Eye shimmers are usually very, very sparkly. This is not. This is kind of matte, almost a matte shimmer. It's not metallic. It's not sparkly at all. It has I guess a bit of shine simply because it's a different formula, but it's not a sparkle shine like Oden's Eye's regular shimmers. And you can see where it's just stopping. It's not merging into the mattes in any kind of nice way. The color is pretty, but I'm not liking any of the performance. I'm trying to work it into these matted crease areas a bit. Let's have a look and see what Heather did next.
Now I'm going to go in with this shade down here called Self, this beautiful shifty shadow duochrome, and I'm going to put that from here to the red. Oh my gosh, that's so pretty. It's so glittery and shimmery, and I think it's going to go beautiful, just kind of faded into that red. Ooh, I love that.
Now this one I know is going to perform nicely, and it's even different dipping into the pan. It's a softer formula. It's a more shiny, sparkly formula. This is the shade Self. I'm going to put it starting on my inner lid and carry it all the way to meet that red shimmer. But this one is beautiful. This shade I've never had any issues with. It's beautiful. It is very pigmented, but you can see the difference in sparkle and shine. Look at the difference. You wouldn't know that I'm blending this Self shade into a shimmer. You wouldn't know it at all because it looks like I'm blending it into a red matte. The red is so lackluster and thick. It's just not great. And here is where I differ from Heather in that, like I said, she splits her lids into halves. I split mine into thirds, so I like my inner lid shade to be like 2/3 of the lid, and that's what I'm doing here. I'm carrying it a little bit past the halfway point, letting it overlap the red a bit. All right, what comes next?
For the lower lash line, I want to go in with this shade right here, Realism. I'm just going to pick that up on a pencil brush and put that all under the lower lash line.
Okay, here's the other shade that I hated. This is the shade Realism, right up here. It is kind of a brown shimmer, but it has the same formula of the red one, so it's sort of dry and clay-like, very thick. I'm taking a small pencil brush for this because I know it's not going to apply well or even pick up well with a fluffy brush. So I'm dipping into the pan, and I don't see a lot coming off on my brush. I'm not going to bother showing you because it's a black brush and you won't see anyway. I'm not seeing a lot on my brush, so I'm gonna sort of swirl it around again just like I did in the red shade, and I will spray this as well. Heather put this on her whole lower lash line. I'm a bit apprehensive to do that because I know that I like my inner lower lash line to be lighter toned. I'm not sure if I'll go the whole way in, but I'll definitely start in the outer corner and bring it in until I want to stop. But here's the shade Realism. Like, it's going down nicely. This shade, because it behaves exactly like that red one, I know that it doesn't blend well. I'm only going to put this halfway. I want to recreate her look, but I also have to wear this the whole day, and I want to like it. So I know that if I bring this all the way in, it's just going to be kind of too dark for me. So I'm going to stop it there because I have to like this look, right? It does seem to be applying a little bit better than the red, so I might have a smidge more luck with it. I'm carrying it up into my inner corner here to help deepen a little bit. But anyway, I think the red shade is still the troublemaker. I do know that this Realism shade doesn't blend very well. It's not like Oden's Eye's regular shimmers where you can lay them down. They're not going to blend the way that a matte blends because they are a different formula, but the sparkles will disperse in a beautiful blanket of glimmer. That doesn't happen with these two shades. It doesn't happen with the red, which doesn't blend at all. And it doesn't happen with this brown Realism shade, which is laying down better, like I said, but kind of stays where you put it. You can't buff out the edges. It doesn't shine the way that their other shimmers shine. I guess it's just a different formula. Now, I think she took the shade Amber Palace for her inner corner, but let's make sure.
All right, to highlight my inner corner, I want to go in to this Amber Palace shade. Looks so pretty. And I'm going to put that right there on my inner corner. And then I'm going to put on some eyeliner and mascara. And I'll be back and we'll highlight and do all that fun stuff.
Yeah, so she put Amber Palace at her inner corner. And because I've left my lower lash line blank in the inner half, I'm going to carry this down there as well just to spruce things up a little bit. Oh, you know what? Should I do Amber Palace on the lash line or should I do Self? Self is looking, because I paired the Self shade with the red, it's looking very dark. I think I'll dip into Self. And I'm going to put this on the rest of my lower lash line. So there's the inner corner highlight as Amber Palace, but I'll take Self and I'll run that on the rest of the lower lash line because I'd love to bring in that color a bit, brighten it up a little bit since it's looking so dark up top. The multi-chromes in this palette are so beautiful because you can see, I don't know if you can see, I can see that taking the Self shade and putting it next to this gold, it brings out the more blue-purple tones. But now carrying it over onto the brown shade out here, now from that point on, I see all the green flecks in the multi-chrome. Super pretty. Okay, I have a bunch of sparkle on my face now. I have sparkle on my face and the red shimmer didn't give me any sparkle. So that's the look. I don't know. It's okay. I'm going to go off camera and finish it up, and I'll be back to give you my final thoughts on those particular shadows.
All right, mascara is on, and what a difference it makes.
This is how it turned out on me. Let me tell you everything I did to finish off the look, and then I will give you my final thoughts. Before I forget, I did use the ColourPop Pretty Fresh Hyaluronic Tinted Moisturizer because I felt my face was a little bit uneven and quite shiny. More so than usual because I've been sick and I haven't given it much attention. I put white in my waterline and I did some mascara. I did a wing in the outer corner, not sure if you can see that. I used my new Tarte palette on my face for a blush. I grabbed this one right here, this pink one right here. These are really, really pigmented. I like this palette. I think the blushes are very pretty. They're super pigmented. A little goes a long way, especially when you have such light blush preferences as I do. But the colors themselves are very flattering, very soft and natural looking. I don't really use the highlighter because I feel like it's a little bit too warm toned for me, and it gives me sort of a cast where each time I've used it and then I've looked at my video later on, I feel like there's a very distinct line where my highlighter ends. It doesn't really blend into my skin tone. So instead I used Around the World from Nomad. This is the shade Positano Sunrise. And on my lips, I'm wearing NYX Butter Gloss in the shade Red Velvet. So that's everything for the look. Now, Heather and I do have different eyeshadow preferences as far as little nuances of application and color placement and stuff. So apart from shadow performance, it's not my most favorite look. It's a little bit too dark on the lid. I do much prefer to have some contrast at the inner to outer corners. And I don't love red and purple together either. So it's not my favorite eye look, but the purpose of this was to see if I could recreate her look and get a similarly good payoff with the shadows that she seemed to be getting. So let me tell you, okay. I think the shade Realism, which is the brown shimmer, shimmer, whatever the formula is, that one worked a little bit better than I remember. It's perfectly fine to smudge out a lower lash line, or if you wanted to do a winged eyeliner with it or something, because it is that thicker, more clay-like formula. I don't know, it's definitely not good for blending, but it did perform a bit better than the red. The red one, it gave me good color payoff, but I could do nothing with it. It was just a lay down and leave alone sort of shade. Usually with Oden's Eye mattes, for example, they stay where you place them. So you put them where you want them to be, and then you get a smaller brush or a different color and you just buff out the edges, and it's beautiful. But with this red shade and the brown one as well, you cannot blend the edges. They're just there forever. There's no moving around, there's no sliding, there's no flexibility or softness. It's just there, and it's like mud almost, or clay. It's just not pleasant to work with. I do not like the formula. I'm so glad I haven't seen it in any subsequent Oden's Eye palettes. And I didn't end up using the purple shimmer, this one here called Obsessed, although I do think that I used that in my week of. I'm not exactly sure, but that one is a little bit more like the Oden's Eye shimmers than the other two. So at the end of the day, I'm still not in love with those two pans particularly, but the palette's great. So this was a fun exercise to see if I could redeem some of those specific shadows that I didn't like, and no, not really. I still plan on avoiding both of those two shadows because I didn't like them. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Thank you for being with me. Remember to like and subscribe if you want to see more. By the way, before I forget, Heather's video is linked down below in the description box. I should have mentioned that at the beginning. Her video is linked below if you want to see it. She did 3 looks, 1 palette, so if you want to see the other 2 looks that she made, they're in there. Again, thanks for being here, and I will see you again very soon. Bye!